Hello and welcome to this Cambridge National Sports Studies Level 2 webinar for Unit R053, Sports Leadership, and giving particular focus to Learning Outcome 1, which is know the personal qualities, styles, roles and responsibilities associated with effective sports leadership. This webinar will aim to do the following three things. We'll aim to guide your learning by breaking down the specific content of the marking criteria. We'll introduce the requirements of the assignment and also give you time to reflect on the work that you've produced so far, identifying strengths and areas for where you can make improvements. To make the most of this webinar resource, you'll need to have access to your original Microsoft Teams tasks that have been set over the past few weeks, and also the Microsoft Forms checklist, which is linked in with this assignment. As with all Cambridge National assignments, this one is marked into one of three marking bands. As you go higher up the marking band, from marking band 1 to marking band 3, you'll see that the marks available within that band increase. It's important to take note of the slight changes in language as we go from marking band 1 into 2 and then from 2 to 3. For the vast majority of you, you'll be aiming to get a piece of work which meets the requirements of marking band 2. For those people who are interested in getting distinctions and distinction stars, they will need to be producing work which means marking band 3. Okay, step 1. The first thing that you need to do and make sure that you have in terms of your assessment is that you've described what leadership and what is meant by a leader. Once you've done that, can you describe what the following leadership roles are? And those roles are that of a captain, a manager, a PE teacher, a sports coach, an expedition leader, and a role model. What are they and what do they do? Step 2 is to think about the role-related responsibilities. Have you explained what the following are and why they are important for sports leaders to be able to do and to have? The role-related responsibilities that you need to make sure you've mentioned in your assignment are knowledge of the activity, enthusiasm for the activity, knowledge of safety, knowledge of child protection issues, and knowledge of basic first aid. Step 3 is to be doing with explaining why the following personal qualities are so important and valuable for sports leaders. The personal qualities that you need to mention are reliability, punctuality, confidence, communication skills, and creativity. If you can think about examples as why they may be important and why, then please do put those into your work. Step 4 is to do with the leadership styles that different leadership roles will use to be successful. Have you explained what the following leadership styles are and why they are important? Democratic leadership, autocratic leadership, and laissez-faire leadership. For those people wanting marking band 3, you need to make sure that you give positive and negative effects of those leadership styles. The final step in your assignment write-up is to link the theory which we've talked about on previous slides. So here is where you need to give 3 examples of sports leadership and make sure that those examples come from different roles from those step 1. So for example, you could pick a manager, a coach, or a PE teacher, and you need to link the bits that we've talked about from previous slides. There are some example sentence starters below, and here we've used Gareth Southgate as our first example, with him being the England men's team manager. We could start by explaining what Gareth Southgate is responsible for. It could be the day-to-day training, picking the team, and sorting and organising the team to make sure that they are as successful as possible. We can start to become more specific than that. We can then talk about the role-related responsibilities. He must ensure that he has knowledge of basic first aid, so we can make sure that he can see if a player is injured during a training session. We can then make sure that player gets sat out and gets the treatment, so they're not going to miss vital games, for example. We can then start to talk about the personal qualities that Gareth Southgate may have. He has confidence to make sure that when he's speaking and delivering information to the team, that they listen and they take note of what he says. He may well be creative to come up with different tactics and strategies or training sessions to make sure that the players stay interested in the learning and developing whilst they're training with him. Lastly, we can start to talk about his style of leadership. So, for example, if England get to a penalty shootout within a World Cup competition, he may well ask the players who wants to take a penalty. That's democratic leadership. He's asking for information and he's making decisions based on the information that his players give back to him. He may use autocratic leadership when he's picking the first starting 11 for his first World Cup game. He decides which players play and in what position. When it comes to a warm-up or a cool-down, he may use laissez-faire leadership, where he will allow the players to go out there and organise and to sort themselves out in terms of their warm-up or cool-down, because he knows that they've got the knowledge and the expertise to do that. You'd have to do that level of detail for 3 examples to make sure that you meet the requirements of marking band 3. Again, just make sure that you're completely comfortable with the change in terminology from marking band 1 to marking band 2 to marking band 3. If you can make sure that you have all the necessary information from step 1 through to step 5 that we've just talked about, then you will definitely be looking at the high end of marking band 2 and potentially into marking band 3, depending on the depth of detail that you go into. The clear and accurate links between roles, qualities and leadership styles, that's mainly visible in those 3 examples that you will conclude your assignment with. So please make sure that they're not rushed and that they are detailed. Okay, reflection time based on this webinar. You should now be more confident with the assessment criteria for the Learning Outcome 1 assignment, and you should also be aware of the key content that's needed to make sure that you're successful in your formal coursework assignment write-up. You need to compare your preparation documents against the Microsoft Forms checklist to make sure that you have all that necessary information needed to complete your assignment. And if not, then you need to take the opportunity to add to that information to make sure that everything is there. Good luck.